Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting episode of NC-17. My name is Josh, and today we have director, writer, producer, owner of Dark Hearts Productions. We got Richard Russell. How are you today?
I'm doing great, man. Thank you for having me.
Uh, hey, it's my honor, my friend. Uh, so before we get into all the good, the good pleasantries of the movies, kind of take us back a little bit. As a child, what was your first memories of like the entertainment world, and what really got you into wanting to do what you do?
Actually, it's kind of funny. It actually started when I was about 10 years old, and I was hanging out with my cousin, and we were with his friend at the time, and his friend decided to show us a little movie called Halloween 4.
Hmm.
And that pretty much kick-started my love for horror films. Shortly after that, I remember one day my dad made me watch Saving Private Ryan, and he actually bought me the DVD copy of that film. And one day I decided to watch the behind the scenes of the making of that film, and that pretty much kickstarted everything for me. Like that's when I kind of knew like that's what I wanted to do. As a wanted to become a filmmaker and wanted to make movies. So my first love was horror, and then Spielberg kind of came in and kickstarted me into wanting to be a filmmaker.
Uh, I mean that's awesome though, because I mean you got the horror and you got the, in my opinion, one of the greatest minds in entertainment. But just uh, so growing up and now getting a kind of a feel what you really want to do. When you started watching more movies, did you start looking at them differently, like what you can do and kind of maybe to make them better, or what you would do to take it away to make it better?
Yeah, actually, I did. I actually, I would watch pretty much after that. I would kind of look at movies a lot different. I would always be like watching something, and I'd just be like, well, what if the character did this, or what if they took this genre and that genre and mixed it together and made something completely different? And that kind of like that definitely just and I that definitely just kind of made me want to definitely explore it a lot more, with mixing genres. Because I sometimes I get labeled as a horror film uh, director, and I never would label myself that. I love thrillers, I love dramas, but with horror, you can definitely do so much more with it than just just the guy in a hockey mask chasing you around or anything else like that.
Guy in a hockey mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, so as you kind of started developing what you've wanted to do in this entertainment world, going into high school and like even going back to junior high, was there moments that you kind of just like was like this would make a perfect movie, whether it be horror or whatever genre?
Not really. When I was in high school and middle school, I was definitely known as the weird metalhead goth kid. But everybody knew me as the horror movie guy. At that point in time, I didn't really give too much thought on filmmaking at that point in time. But I will say that I want to say like near the end of my high school career is when I finally got into it. I actually did start a YouTube channel with some old friends of mine at the time, and we did like these weird comedy YouTube short films. And eventually after that, I started to come up with this idea for like a horror film, and I wanted to go that direction. However, the crew that I had at the time, we decided to part ways, because they wanted to stick with like the more, goofy, comical side of film, and I wanted to go a little bit more to the serious side. And
Yeah.
so that's kind of how technically my feature film debut happened was when I was like 19, turning 20 years old.
Oh yeah. uh I do want to say, and you work with I've seen him in some of your stuff. You work with a guy that I'm quite familiar with. He's a friend to the show. He's a friend of mine, James L. Edwards.
Yep.
Awesome dude. And I think the way you kind of just described how your journey came into this world of entertainment and kind of like what he's doing is did you watch his movie? Her Name Was Krista.
I have. I have all three of his movies.
Okay, so question:
Yes.
horror or love story?
Love story.
Agreed. And I'm glad you said that because you can differentiate what is horror. I mean, granted, some horrible stuff happens in that movie, but you can tell the difference. And watching some of your films, I kind of got the same kind of feeling. Like one of my favorites, I'm sorry, is The Architect's Wife. That I wasn't expecting that. Like I said, I started at 4 in the morning, and I think I binge watched like not all of them, but most of them. And I got to The Architect's Wife, and I was like, well, this is a wake me up. I was not expecting this. So if you can, kind of go into the way you paved your road to where you are today, if you can, starting with your first film,
Mhm.
going forward.
Well, it pretty much all started with, like I said, my so-called first feature-length debut. I made a back in 2015 into 2016. I made a movie called Dinner Guest. It was a 2 year process making that film. Honestly, that would be its own podcast episode. But to get to the meat and potatoes of the story of when I made that film, it did not turn out the way that I wanted it to turn out. Like I was I was very disappointed. And but I still released it. I never got it distributed. I just literally just made DVDs and I gave it to a handful of people, and that's all she wrote from that point.
Oh, yeah.
From that point on, I directed a couple music videos for a couple indie bands. I tried to make another feature film called Abnormality, and that we ended up shelving that film. And then I went back and I tried to make a movie called Mr. Darkness, which was a really good supernatural like drama that was very heavily inspired by Lars von Trier when I saw Antichrist back in the day. And that film got like 70% done, and then the whole world shut down. And when that happened, everything just went one way and another. And I ended up canceling that film as well. So I was in a bit of a rut for a good 2 to 3 years where I was just like, do I even want to do this anymore? Do I want to continue anymore? I actually had a friend who actually, he kind of pushed me into doing it again. After a little good pep talk and a good slap in the face, he actually helped me make this short film called Brother. It worked out great. It had a pleasant surprise. And then the summer of 2020, no, I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Actually, yeah, the winter of 2022, is right. It was when I officially met James L. Edwards. I actually met him months like in like late 2021. I met him at a bar at a little convention. He was screening Brimstone Incorporated.
Mhm.
And let's just say I was very under the influence when I was at that bar because it was a bar, a bunch of horror movies were watching, everyone's having a good time. But Lonnie actually had he had this giant poster of Her Name Was Krista, and I could not stop staring at it. And one would have thought I would have just walked up and introduced myself. I did not do that because I was drunk. I didn't want to make a fool of myself. So shortly after that, I finally watched Her Name Was Krista, and the movie just, I don't know, something of that film just absolutely woke me up, and I instantly became a fan of his, and I became a huge fan of that film. And one day I reached out to him on Instagram and I was talking to him about the film. And next thing he hands me his personal number and we talked for 3 hours about Krista, a little bit about me. He told me about his whole career, and I instantly just loved the guy from that point on.
Oh yeah.
And he then next thing I know, like 2 days later, he makes a post saying that he's looking for crew members to help him out on Trivial. And I jumped on. I hopped on and I worked on Trivial for 5 days, and it was the best experience of my career, honestly.
Oh yeah. Awesome movie. And I don't know if you know too much about the NC-17 awards, but last year Sasha Graham won for Best Actress, and he won for Best Director or Best Writer or Best Movie. One of the three. It
Yeah,
you know it everything just runs together.
Sasha Graham. She was a total sweetheart when I met her, and remember how Lonnie looked in that film with the curly hair and the two-seater shirt?
Oh
That was
yeah.
my introduction to him when I officially met him. Was in that full outfit. I was like, okay, I didn't know what I'm signing up for, but okay.
Oh yeah.
And
Uh, so before we go on with the rest of your films, kind of take us a moment in your life that kind of just clicked and you were like, you know what? You're on the right path and you're doing what you need to do.
that's a tough one because I still don't think I'm on the right path. But I will say that when I officially started pre-production for my film, Shadows of Thulis, um, I ran into a lot of hurdles and a lot of obstacles. And, it was one of those things where during that process, I was questioning if I still wanted to do it. Now that we are 4 days into production of that film, I think I'm on the right path. And basically, the easiest way to say it is if certain things didn't happen the way they happened, I wouldn't be the person I am today and be willing to take on more. You know what I mean? So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Uh, I too have experienced stuff, but because it's kind of I'm 46 years old. I started really late. Uh, but the thing is like I look at people such as yourself, such as James Edwards and Sasha Graham, and everyone just out there doing what they do, and bringing pure entertainment to people. Because that's what I've seen of your work is nothing but pure entertainment.
thank you.
And even my wife, who if I say comedy horror, she watches it. If I say horror, she's like, yeah, I'm gonna stay over here. You know. So we sat down and I actually woke her up at like 6 in the morning. I was like, hey, you gotta watch this. So, we were watching, some of your stuff, and she was like, this is really good.
Thank
You
you.
know,
You too,
so
Dev.
but I think one of the things in my shows I always kind of praise the people who's here because to me it's a show of respect.
Mhm.
One of the things I think that makes your work really good is how you film it and how everything is, it just runs smooth, you know? Like you see that opening architect's wife when they started taking off their clothes, I was like, I don't know what's happening, but I was like, wasn't expecting that, but it's like it's still toward the end, it ran smooth. And I have to say the thing she pulls out of her hair, classic. That I mean, that right there is some stuff that's pure gold. But is there a project that you've worked on that yours or someone else's that's kind of like, not your opus, because trust me, you're way too young for your opus, but just a defining moment that tells you that your career is where it needs to be.
There's two. One that's my own, and then one that's someone else's. But I'm going to talk about the one that was someone else's real quick. Back in the summer of last year, I worked on a feature film called In the Hands of Fate. It is a crime thriller mixed with a cult um, thriller. It's directed by my good friend and now producer and cinematographer Samuel L. Franzman. And I worked on that movie for half of the production. And working on that film, it was, now mind you, I was a second camera operator, but there was literally days where I was just counting down the production, like days before the production date, because I it was one of those sets where I absolutely could not wait to get back on the set and like wanted to keep filming. And I felt, I got a little sad when the movie ended, you know, because it was like, okay, crap, now what else am I gonna do, But
Right.
working on that film was so much fun. The reason why that was so much fun is one, I got to work with a lot of people that I absolutely loved. On that film set, that's where I met Adam Turner, who plays Thulis in my film, and Adam's an absolute sweetheart of a guy. I met my mega effects artist over there, Carissa. I'm not going to attempt to pronounce her last name. She might be watching and then kind of cuss me out later on today, but that's fine. And also I got to I also got to work with an actor who was in one of my short films, Keith Migra, and it was like it was extremely fun. Everything of that production was extremely fun, and I was kind of going through a little bit of a rut where I found myself questioning if I still want to do it, but that definitely kick-started me into continuing to do it. And so that one was definitely one that I would feel like is one of my proudest moments in my career, was working on that film. Now, when it comes to my own, I would have to say it's a mixture between two films. It's my short film Thulis, and then my latest short film, Let Me Go. Thulis was my first attempt working with what's like I like to call it my first official like real short film, because I actually started working with actors, not just hiring my friends, which I don't I honestly I still do that to this day. I still hire my friends when I do a project,
Oh yeah.
um, but like this was my first attempt of actually doing something a little different and a little bit more real. And when that film came out, it definitely opened up a lot of opportunities for me. I met a lot of great people because of that short film. Let Me Go, my short film Let Me Go, however, that one I felt like I had to make. And
Yeah.
the worst thing about making that film was actually I was like 2 months before we started production on that short film, we actually were in production for another comedy short film. So the reason why that's the bad thing, because my mind was so focused on Let Me Go, I didn't put the time and effort into the other short, which ended up snowballing into a bunch of issues, and we ended up shelving that film. And I don't blame nobody for that but myself on that one. But Let Me Go, I felt like I had to make because that is an extremely personal film for me.
Right.
Um, I actually almost turned that was supposed to be a horror film. I kind of got the idea. It was like going to be like a mixture of like Barbarian and the Sentinel from the 70s
Oh
with
yeah.
Burgess Meredith. I wanted to do something similar to that, but I just could not do it without feel like I was ripping off um, Insidious or The Conjuring. So I shelved it for a little while. I got some devastating news about a family member of mine who was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I was in crossroads where, because like this individual was no longer part of my life due to a lot of things. And I was in crossroads where I was just like, should I see him? Should I not see him? So I wanted to make a short film about that. And I added a little bit more, more heavier subject matters on that, with the abusive relationship and the estranged mother and the main character living with regret. So writing that script was really hard. But when I was on set, I made sure I actually when I was on set filming that thing, I never told anybody this, but there was like times in between breaks I would have to walk away and take some deep breaths because it was really hard for me to make that
Right.
film. And even editing the film was even a challenge. And the film is one of my favorites I've ever made. Because like it's very personal to me. It's a good mixture of supernatural horror with drama. And I always tell people I was in a very big Lars Van Trier slash Andrei Tarkovsky. I'm probably butchered that name so bad. Mood when I was making that film because I was wanting the slower shots. I was wanting the like a great example is my favorite scene in that movie is actually the scene where Julie Carney and Devin Tyler they're sitting on this couch and they're just having a conversation and they're in the shot it just lingers on that one whole shot. That was a mixture of some of my favorite shots I've seen in Kotowski's films, and also from Steve McQueen's Hunger with Michael Fassbender, where they have this one wide shot of Michael Fassbender, this other actor talking, and it lingers on for like 20 minutes, and you don't even it doesn't even feel like it's 20 minutes, you know.
Oh yeah.
So I was very impressed with what we were able to accomplish with that film. And when the film came out, it really, people loved it. Some people didn't understand it, which is fine. Not every film's going to be for everybody, but a lot of people absolutely did enjoy it. So I take that with a huge grain of salt. And actually, Let Me Go just premiered at the International Horror Film Festival last weekend. So
Oh, that's cool.
I
Yeah.
wasn't there, so.
Oh, uh, I will say, so we've just had our first, starting this year, we're doing two NC-17 awards because there's just way too many movies out there, you know? And I will say that some of your movies, won't say which ones, later on this year will be up for some awards.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yourself included, and all that'll be that's not until December. But the thing is we did the first half from January to May. Now we're doing, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And it's not just me who watches these, and I want everyone to know this. I say it all the time. But there is a group of us that make up NC-17 and we watch these movies.
Okay.
So but you and some of your movies are they will be up for some awards. So
I appreciate that, man.
oh yeah, no problem. You know. Uh so let's kind of go back to your personal connection to some of your films. Because I don't think any film you've done, just by what you just said, is going to be as personal as the one you just was talking about. But do you take like references from everyday life in your life and put them in your movies, or is it just your creative juices flowing and you're like, this sounds good, I'm writing it down?
It's a mixture of both, honestly. With Thulis, there are some of my personal life in that film. I used to be a pretty bad alcoholic. And of course, I'm saying this, and I have a Lipton hard tea sitting right next to me. So, but I was really bad. Years ago, I was really bad. I mean, I'm talking like I used to drink like a whole bottle of Grey Goose if I could.
Uh,
So with the alcoholism of the character of Mike and Thulis and the one line in Thulis where you have to appreciate what you have, I was taking life for granted at that point when I came up with the script for Shadow, sorry, not Shadows, but for Thulis. And that movie was very personal because like I wrote that during the pandemic. Um, Literally, it was go home, lock myself up in my room after work, drink a whole 12 pack of beer. That was my entire life for a good chunk of that year, and and then on the weekends crack out the old bottle of Hennessy and then chug that down, So, but that movie actually came up to me when I was it was one of those drunken nights, and I started watching Mike Leigh's Naked, and that movie where the actor David Thewlis, he plays like a drifter. He's like a loner. He's like going around the whole streets of London. He's like talking about life and religion and everything. And there's a special scene in that movie where him and the security guard, excuse me, they're talking about religion, their aspects of life and everything. And when I was in that state of mind, I started thinking about where my life was at that time. And I was like, I want to turn this into like a thriller. So that's how the short film for Phyllis came to be. And the one scene in the film, I'm not going to spoil it because it's actually in the feature film too. But it's near the end if you know which scene I'm talking about.
Okay, I think I got a good idea.
That was actually inspired by when I got a call from a family member about some devastating news. So I
Uh,
I'll just leave it at that because if I say any more, it's going to spoil everything. So
oh yeah.
and then it'll be okay. There's not really too much of um with my short film. It'll be okay. There's not too much of a personal connection to that one, but it was a very fun family drama mixture with the werewolf genre that I thought was cool and something different. Um, a Family Matter, that one was another very personal one. That was my first movie I ever did with Lonnie or James L. Edwards, in case people didn't know. That movie was heavily inspired by an argument I had with a girlfriend.
Uh, if we had movies of that, I think we'd all be millionaires right now. Yeah.
That's
But
it's really funny because when some people ask me what A Family Matter is really about, I literally just say it was inspired by an argument I had with an ex at the time. And it's inspired by that, but it's also inspired by, and this is funny how this happened, where I was on YouTube one day and this Inside Crime Daily YouTube channel. I think they're called I think they go by a different name now, but they did this special on this crime case where this boyfriend would have convinced his friends to abduct his ex-girlfriend, and then they keep her in the garage, and then they off her. So I remember I watched that special. I was like, oh, okay, that's a cool story. I put that in the back burner. And then within 20 minutes, I actually went on Mr. Ballin's podcast, and he did the exact same story. So I was just like, this is destiny telling me I have to write this script now. So that's how Family Matter came out. And working with Lonnie on that movie was extremely fun. It was my first experience working with him as an actor, and he was Johnny on the spot. Now Jacob's Little Helper, there's no personal connection with that one.
that was an awesome one, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That actually, you know what? That's a lie. It shows how much I love Dateline because I watched Dateline in 2020 on a nightly basis. So,
Oh yeah. Uh,
um,
I also think it showed your love of horror because I mean you've mentioned not by name but every major franchise.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, that script that one's kind of funny because I get a call from my friend at the time, or my friend at the time, Heather Bales, and she's a total sweetheart of a person. She calls me up and she goes, "Hey, let's do a. Do you want to do this 21 Days of Horror film competition?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's try it out." And we got Lonnie involved, and she no him and her they collaborated on the script together, and that's what came out was that. So.
Uh, that I'm not gonna lie. When you were when they were saying all the references and everything like that, I was like, I low key this is definitely I'm gonna let you know now. That's gonna be in one of the awards. That I'm a obviously I love horror,
Oh yeah.
but when they were name dropping them and doing it in ways that I've never heard it before, I was like, this is pure genius right here.
Do you remember in the in that short where James and Heather they started to dance in one of the small segments?
Yeah,
That was completely improv. Um,
that's awesome.
I was kind of a dick on that production because James had this had this paper bag wrapped around his head and he could barely see as it was. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to. He's kind of like my Bruce Campbell. I'm like his Sam Raimi to his Bruce Campbell, where I was like, I got to mess with him just because. So I made him and Heather dance. And like, there's actually a take. There's a take that we used to have where I would say, okay, guys, now start dancing, and they just kind of like look at each other like okay. So it looked so awkward, but it worked out because I thought it was funny. And then I even yelled out, I was like, okay, James, now pick Heather up like in Dirty Dancing.
Oh yeah, I mean that's awesome. I particularly liked because you there were bloopers. I like the bloopers. I'm not gonna ruin it for anybody. They all should go on. They should go on YouTube and look up Dark Hearts Productions and just watch his movies. That's all I'm gonna say. It's it's really refreshing seeing stuff come from a more seeing creative stuff come from a more kind of like not so serious but not serious,
Hmm.
you know. And I do like the descriptions like comedy horror, comedy drama, or horror drama, and I'm like, all right, so now I know what I'm coming into.
Yeah,
But I will tell you, with your mind and James's mind, anything you guys do together, I'm gonna enjoy.
I appreciate that. Yeah, actually, it's kind of funny. I actually had to think about it the other day. I was like, there's only been three films I've done as a director where Lonnie was not involved as an actor. And Let Me Go, he actually was associate producer. He actually did help me out a lot on that set. The most fun I think we've had working together was actually it was actually it had to been The Architect's Wife, to be honest with you. Architect's Wife, that was a brainchild of, and I can't take all the credit because I was actually the co-writer for that film.
Yeah.
The So Heather actually, I called up Heather and I said, "Hey Heather, I have an idea for a comedy," and I was like kind of like going through my ideas, and I said, "Hey, why don't you write the script and I'll just throw you some ideas." And she did. She took some of my weird ideas and she turned them into a very funny script. And what was funny was some of the ideas I did have was a little bit too out there, so she had to water them down a little bit. So because I'm not gonna lie to you, I was in a big John Waters kick when we were coming up with that movie.
Okay. I'm intrigued now. You said John Waters.
I will say, since we did not shoot this scene, I can kind of say what I wanted the original post credit scene to be.
Yeah.
We actually wanted the scene where Lonnie's character was in a thong and a elephant thong, and I just wanted him walking down this hallway with him just shaking his tuchus all over the place. He gets to the bedroom door, and then he just goes, "Hey guys, you ready for round two?" And does like an elephant noise. That's what I originally wanted, but it was just not in the cards. And if I honestly thinking back on it, it was probably a good idea that we didn't do that.
Yeah. I yeah, I agree.
But it was, like I said, that one was a very fun movie. We actually, it's kind of funny how that movie kind of came to be because we had to postpone my film Shadows of Thulis for a year last year, and and during that time, not only did I do it in the Hands of Fate, I did Jacob's Little Helper. I was a director of photography for a short film called Ludella, which was directed by my friend Heather Bales. And she pitched this script to me, and I was like, I like the story. I absolutely love the story where it was going.
Yeah.
And she said, I said, yeah, I'm interested in doing this for you. And she goes, and then she asked me, she's like, can I direct it? And I just said, yeah, why not? We all have to get our start somewhere, you know?
True.
And honestly, even though I have some issues with that short film, for her first attempt, it was actually pretty good for what it was.
Oh yeah.
And she went off to direct, then she went off to direct a short film called Danny Don't. Well, let me rephrase that. I co-directed that short film with her. It was a very, I can definitely tell that one was like a passion project for her.
Yeah.
And it was, it turned out great. It really did. I think she did a good job directing what she could direct because she was actually the star of the short. And when she was like in front of the camera, I had to jump in and direct the scene, direct the scenes of that as well. That one actually premiered had a premiere last week actually.
Okay.
Yeah, it turned out really well, and I couldn't be more proud. So,
Oh yeah. So with everything you've done and all the people you've worked with, and trust me, there's a long list. Is there one person you have yet to work with that's like a bucket list person that you would definitely 100% want to work with?
are we talking independent or are we talking mainstream?
Both.
Mainstream, Willem Dafoe. Like he's like hands down the one actor I want to work with. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
if he ends up being in my next movie, I would die happy. But in the independent scene, oh man, there's a lot that I want to work with. Let's see, there's this well, I just worked with Tim Hale, and I love Tim Hale. I got to work with him on Satan's Peak. He's a really cool guy.
Oh yeah.
I would like to have him in one of my films. Um,
I'm right there with you.
uh, God, let's see. There's so many. There's too much to name. There's way too many to name. I mean, in the local scene, we would be here all day because it's a long list.
Oh yeah.
But like in the mainstream, I would love to work with Willem Dafoe. I would love to work with a handful of my favorite horror icons. But I'm gonna throw you a loophole. If I had the opportunity for someone to produce one of my films, it would be Adam Green.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can see that. Yeah. So in in saying that, so now you're kind of the way you do films is completely different than the way he does films.
Mhm.
But the connection I think that would be there would be the seriousness, the, but the fun at the same time. Because you look at his movies, hey, this is what's happening, but they're having one hell of a time doing it.
Oh yeah.
And then I look at your films and I'm like, you guys are having one hell of a time doing it also while you're doing it. It's it is interesting to find out, who people would want to work with because it speaks volumes of who they see themselves as a actor, director, producer,
Mhm.
You know.
I will work with anyone, to be completely honest with you. I do have a list of people that I won't work with, but 95% of the time, I'll work with almost anyone. So
uh,
I would like to think I'm pretty easy to get along with. So
uh, well, just from this conversation, you seem like you're easy to get along with. So,
just not when my depression kicks in, then that's when I get really sad.
oh, yeah. Well, my wife and pretty much everyone who's around me says I had this uncanny knack of being able to make people laugh at stupid stuff. So, yeah,
I wish I had that talent. I think I try to make people laugh, and sometimes unintentionally offend them, and I'm like, hmm.
ah,
It's like I do that sarcastic humor that's really dry,
oh yeah,
and I've gotten called out for being a dick, and I've owned up to it at this point. Like, yeah, yeah, I should have said that, or I shouldn't say it the way that I said it. You know, it's especially worse during text. Like when you're trying to be sarcastic on a text message, the person's going to take that serious. You're just like, okay, yep, shouldn't have said that. Should have worded that differently.
Oh yeah.
Add a couple of boogies on there, you know.
Oh yeah. Speaking of like working with people on bucket lists and stuff like that, I am very fortunate to work with probably in my humble opinion. You know who Jesse L. Green is, right?
Mhm.
So I interviewed him a couple of months ago, and afterward we were talking. I was like, yeah, I'm trying to get this movie started, and he's like, hey, if you need me, man, just let me know. I am lucky enough to have that legend on my cast,
There you go, man.
and so when you said William Dafoe, I was like, bro, you never know. It might happen. He might come up and say, you want to film Antichrist too. You know what I'm saying?
Sign me up. That's what I would.
All right, that was a really graphic movie, but not in the manner of being graphic.
Yeah,
And it still freaked the hell out of my wife, but oh well.
I honestly, I don't know. It didn't freak me out. It really, I don't know. It's gonna sound, I'm gonna sound very artistic when I say, but it really spoke to me when I saw it. So,
Oh yeah. I mean, it was a good movie though.
yeah,
It's probably one of the most contemporary classics I've seen in the last 20 years.
it's definitely one of Lars Van Trier's best film. I mean, if you ask me, I think it's his best film. His second best would go to the house that Jack built.
Uh-huh.
Um, some people might argue with me with that, which is fine. We're all entitled to our opinions.
Very true.
He did another one I really loved called you. I'm probably going to mispronounce it, but Utopia. Yeah, Utopia, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
I'm like I said, I probably am butchering that title. That's not even how you pronounce it, but that one was really good. But my least favorite still to this day is it's Nymphomaniac. That's my least favorite of his work.
Yeah. Like I think I sat through the first 20 minutes and I was like, this is not for me.
See, I love the first half of it. It lost me on the second half.
I
And
can see that.
yeah, and I'm not going to go into details why, but I will just say once that scene happened, I was like, done. Okay. No. And I still own the movie, so you know.
Nah. The funny thing is when you're making a movie and
Mhm.
you're hoping someone can compare you to the next Spielberg or just whoever, in their mind they're always going to critique good and bad.
Oh yeah.
In your mind you're also going to critique good and bad.
Oh, that's not even a joke.
But I think altogether the body of work that one does, whether it be directing, acting, or something like that, I think it speaks to who they are as a person.
Mhm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, watching what I've watched of your stuff, you seem like the type of person that is a take control kind of person, but also at the same time a giving person.
I would definitely say I'm a very giving person. And I'm now granted some people might have their different opinion on that, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I don't want to be so in control to where basically where it says like, you know, it's my way or the highway. I always want everybody, cast crew, I always want to make sure that they're heard and also that their suggestions are also, that I at least consider their suggestions, you know.
Oh yeah.
Now, with that being said, I will admit there's been times, most recently in the past few months. I was a dick, and I was very insane. And I started having that bit of an ego problem where I was like, it's either my way or the highway. You're wrong, I'm right, and you know, the funny thing is that I got called out on that by someone. And the problem was that I never really listened to that. But once that person and I kind of parted ways for a while, we still talk every once in a while. It made me realize that I see the errors of my ways. And I see that I was a dick. I was an asshole. I can cuss on here, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, just don't say
Oh yeah. No, I mean, if you could, I'd have told you 3 days ago. But no.
but like I said, like you do have to have that one person that will call you out on when you're kind of being, you're being too controlling, you're being too much of a dick, right?
Yeah.
And you can either do that, and when they call you out on it, you can't, don't do what I did, and that was get offensive, or not defensive, but defensive. Don't argue, just take the hit and just kind of, think back on it and then kind of move on and be a bigger and better person. And I will say, I would like to think that I am better than I was. I'm a better person than I was last year. And, I mean, granted, it took 3 weeks of therapy to kind of like wake me up and kind of like, okay, like, yeah, I'm the issue. These people aren't the issue. This person is not the issue. The person that's the issue is you.
Oh yeah.
That was actually a lesson I took in from, and I took in from for the we're trying to we're trying to get Shadows of Phyllis going. But I will also say that, in my films, I always feel better because, like I said, a lot of my films are some of my films are very personal to me. Like when Let Me Go was finally released, that was like a huge weight off my shoulders because I finally made peace to what I went through at that point.
Yeah.
And, with now that I have the stress of making a feature film, now I got that to worry about.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And like I commend you for what you've done and the way you've like pretty much just made your path and you've been on it doing your thing. Because a lot of people have told me personally, start with a short, start with a
Mm-hmm.
short. And I see so many people out there doing short films, but I also see some of these same people getting stuck in short films, and that's all they can do.
Mm-hmm.
And it took the words of a very, very wise woman, my wife, to say, just do it, And I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a feature. But then I was a dumbass. I was like, well, I'm going to make a trilogy. I was like, fuck, I ain't even got nothing out there yet.
I'm in the same boat, brother, because after Shadows is distributed and released, I've already announced that it's going to kickstart a trilogy, and it's my love letter to the Vengeance trilogy and the Depression trilogy. So, but I
Oh,
understand that. But I'll be honest with you, man. Like once Shadows is pretty much done and released on streaming and DVD and Blu-ray, I'm taking a hiatus from directing for a while. Because I always feel like I've been told this by a lot of people that you have to take that 1 month or that those few weeks or hell even one day where you can just recharge your batteries and just pretty much just not worry about films, be supportive, of other people's work, take a. On your own.
oh yeah. Oh yeah. Uh, we're getting near the end of the show. This is the part where I say, what advice would you give to anyone who's trying to get into the industry, whether it be acting, directing, producing, even if they just want to be a grip? I mean, just anything.
Best advice I can give anybody is network yourself. believe in yourself. When you stop believing in yourself, you're going to have those people who are going to be believing in you. Take the energy that of those people who truly support you and use that as momentum to keep going. Don't ever give up. It's okay to take a break, but don't ever give up on that dream.
Uh, and now I'm going to give you the floor to plug your socials where people can see your films. Reach out to you if you want them to or not. That's up to you. Just follow your progress of everything you got going on.
Well, right now I'm in, like I said earlier, I'm day 4, about to go on day 5 and 6 of shooting my first feature film, Shadows of Thulis. It's a feature film adaptation of my short film Thulis. So that's been a fun process. I've actually before we hopped on here, I was editing the film as we were speaking. Got some scenes already on picture lock. Hopefully, we'll have a good rough cut by October. Um, you can follow me on Instagram, Dark Hearts Productions. You can follow the Shadows of Thulis on also on Instagram. It has its own separate thing. I'm on YouTube, Dark Hearts Productions. You can find me on Facebook, Richard Russell. If you want to reach out to me about talk about stuff, that's fine. More than welcome to. Um, I'm about to do an Indiegogo pitch video for an upcoming film for Samuel Franzman for his movie Crimson Knight, which is I'm looking forward to that. Can't talk too much about that one. I'm going to be working on I'm working on James L. Edwards' new film, Satan's Peak. Got one more day of shooting on that one, so looking forward to that. And again, I want to plug a short film called Danny Don't, which is a film that was directed by myself and my friend Heather Bales, and it just got accepted at a brand new not brand new, but it got accepted at a film festival today.
All right.
So,
Congratulations.
all right, yeah, huge congratulations to her because I think she deserves more of the credit than I do. So,
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to have her on the show
oh,
and talk to her.
she's great. She's really great.
Oh yeah. Uh, I always tell everybody once you've been on NC-17, you have a home here. You come back on here anytime to plug a movie, plug yourself. That didn't sound right. Talk about movies, just anything and everything, because that's what we're here for. This show's not for me; it's for you guys.
Appreciate it, bud.
Oh yeah, and I am 100% guaranteeing we will be doing another 10 shows, but you know, but nah, I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank
You've
you, man.
been an all star, a rock star, any kind of star except for a falling star. Uh, my wife says I should start spicing it up. I was like, falling star? Okay. But nah, thank you for coming on. It's been an honor and a pleasure, and I look forward to one watching more of your stuff and rewatching Architect's Wife. That just blew my mind. But
Well, not to spoil anything, but there are possibilities we might be bringing that back.
oh man, yeah, let me know.
We'll see. It's in the talks. It's nothing confirmed yet. So
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Well, if it is confirmed, I'm there to watch it. Trust me. All right, thank you, my friend, for coming on, and we will definitely be talking again fairly soon. Because once I see all of your stuff, I'm just gonna have you back on. So.
I appreciate it, brother.
Oh yeah, everybody. Until next time, stay in C17.